What's up, guys? Welcome into this live episode of the Jenks Island Podcast, the only NFL podcast where you get your takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback and his friends. Ty and I, in this episode, are going to be breaking down the NFC and AFC championship games that are today. We waited until Sunday because we are going to do Wednesday. Then there's some scheduling issues, and now it's perfect to break the games down right before the games start, which is a good time for you guys to comment your takes down below, your thoughts, and we will get back to them as we're breaking down the games. Obviously, starting off, Ty, the AFC Championship game is first. You got your Broncos gear on, you're decked out. Big game for you guys. Jarrett Stidham is the quarterback after Bo Nix broke a bone in his ankle on that last few, I think it was like the third to last play. Sean Payton said it was the second to last, but that technically would have been like the kneel play, and I don't think it was the kneel, but anyways, Ty, what are your thoughts on this game with Jarrett Stidham at the quarterback? Do you think that the Broncos can pull off an upset against the Patriots?
Yeah, everyone's obviously heard all the hype all week long about what City can do, what City can't do, right? Obviously, a lot of pundits have said, the Patriots should wash Denver in this game because it is a backup quarterback. But you look at Stiddy's line of work, the coaches that have wanted to work with him, right? This guy is obviously a talented player, right? Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and Sean Payton, and Mike Vrabel this offseason, right? All picked him, all wanted him. Sean Payton, the first thing that he does when he gets to Denver, signs Stidham. The first thing that he does this offseason, signs Stidham. So, this is a guy that has a chance to come in. He competed for the job with Bo Nix. He has a chance to come in and win himself a job maybe somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And, in what better scenario, right? With the defense that we have, with the ability to run the football, the offensive line that's in front of him, right? He's not going to have to move around too much. He is a little bit mobile guy. Patriots have a good defensive front, but Denver's got the best offensive line in football. With across all metrics really. And Bo Nix, obviously his mobility added a layer to the offense, but at times it was more him being kind of frantic and escaping and making something with his feet when he could have maybe hung into the pocket. And that's where Stiddy, his veteran presence will kind of bring a different layer to this offense. It'll look a little different. I think they'll probably run the football a lot, especially given the weather. Luke Wattenberg's back, their center. So, didn't get Dobbins back. Honestly, that's killer. If we had gotten Dobbins back, that would have been big. But, RJ has played pretty well. Jaleel has played pretty well. So, expect to see a decent dose of the run game and then, sprinkle in the pass because Pat Bryant is back. No Troy Franklin, but Pat Bryant will be playing. So there are the weapons on the outside. I think, I feel confident in Stiddy because I've seen him play before. I saw him, in 2023 with Denver in those last two games when it didn't mean anything. The squad that he had out there was definitely not the squad that he has now. I've seen him in division when he was with the Raiders, his first start. He diced up the number one defense in the NFL in San Francisco. He threw for 300 yards. So this is a guy that he's done it before. He did it in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, but he threw for 300 yards in the preseason. You don't often hear of stuff like that too. So, offensively, I do believe in Stidham. I think that the recipe, like I said, will be run the football and then pick your spots after that. But the defense is the huge key to this game, right? Because Drake Maye and this offense have been so good all season long. But last week and kind of in the latter half of the season, turnovers have reared itself up, especially Drake fumbling the football. Part of it, I think, maybe just his throwing mechanics, but I think the other half is Will Campbell on the left side has just, he hasn't been great coming back from injury, and he's a good offensive lineman. Maybe he's not a left tackle. Maybe the injury is still bugging him a little bit, but Will Anderson ate his lunch all day long, forced 3 fumbles in that game. And I think the big issue for Houston in that game was they had 3 turnovers, but there was 3 other ones that they left on the table because they couldn't recover it, right? And there was 2 of them that they kind of stumbled over. One of them was inside the 10-yard line. Like, these are key plays and key, fumble recoveries that you need to make in order to win a football game. You have to win the turnover margin, especially with their offense, having 5 turnovers themselves. So imagine, right? If they get those 3 fumbles, they're winning the turnover margin. There's a good chance that maybe they win that game because it was close until the very, very end of that game. So if Nick Bonito can do what he's done the past couple weeks, get in there, get a couple tomahawk chops, right? Make Drake Maye fumble on the back end, maybe an interception, that would be huge. I think you have to be perfect defensively, right? Because Drake Maye, if you're playing man, he's a really, really good quarterback against man. And they have good receivers. I'll be interested to see what the matchup is at corner versus receiver, right? Do they put Pat on Steph, or do they put him on Booty and say make Stephon Diggs beat Riley Moss all day. I don't know what the matchup will be. You'll kind of tell early on. But Denver's defense, I think, is the key to this game and just holding onto the football for the Denver offense. But, New England has played really well defensively all season long, especially against the Houston Texans, right? 5 turnovers. I don't think City will have 5 turnovers. CJ Stroud looked like a moron out there, but I mean, just
Dan,
to be quite
Dan
frank,
Orlovsky said 31 other quarterbacks would have won them that game. He has since revoked that statement and apologized.
He's probably not wrong, though. He's probably not wrong. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to go obviously riding with Denver here. I think it'll be probably a close game. Denver is undefeated at home in the playoffs versus New England, and that includes a game with Peyton Manning on the second to last game of his career where, he's a smart guy, but he was not the quarterback that we saw for forever, right? And Stiddy is a smart guy, and he's going to be more capable than Peyton Manning was in that game. So give me Denver here.
Yeah, this is a tough game for me because I do think the Patriots kind of have had a cakewalk through the playoffs, right, to this point, right? I think when you look at CJ Stroud's performance last week, that is something like you just said, like any other quarterback, and Dan Orlovsky said it. He's revoked it because obviously it's a tough thing for a person of that status to say on ESPN and not get some sort of hate or flack for that sort of statement. But he was probably right. Like the performance that CJ Stroud put up was not what half of at least the league would have put up in that game. The Patriots have a decent defense. Yes, they are top 10 in a lot of metrics, but one of the metrics that they're not good at is the red zone. And they couldn't really get there for the Texans. And then the Texans were turning the ball over left and right due to CJ Stroud. If other quarterbacks get you to at least the red zone, you probably get at least more than what did they have? I genuinely forgot the number of points that the Texans had, but it wasn't a lot. It was like what, 16? Yeah, 16.
But it was like 16 to 18 at one point or something. And, like that. It was close.
And a lot of those points, right? Like they lost by 12, I believe. You have one of those being a defensive touchdown. So that if your quarterback didn't throw a ridiculous interception, that was like he was trying to force the ball, obviously got hit up kind of as he was getting hit while he was throwing it. But it was just a bad play, bad decision by him either way. And it puts the ball in harm's way, lets the Patriots get free points. Against the Chargers, Justin Herbert played absolutely horrifically. Ty and I were talking about that all night that week. And then the next week, we broke that down a little bit. But both of the quarterbacks struggled. If Stidham can have an average game and this Broncos defense can play like they have been, minus last week, obviously Josh Allen, I think he had a bad game, but at the same time, he was the only reason why they were in the game at all. But I think Drake Maye is a good enough quarterback to kind of mitigate that. But like you said, Ty, the big decision here is whether Pat is going to be guarding Boutte or Diggs. And my answer would be that he should be on Kayshon Boutte all game long. And I think that is because Kayshon Boutte at this point in time is probably the better receiver. I think he can do a little bit more than Diggs. I know Diggs has been relied on heavily by this Patriots team. I believe he was the leading receiver in only 7 games this year, though. They have a good amount of receivers on that team where he can spread the ball out to anyone he wants to at any given time. But Boutte has the best, I would say, contested catch rate on this team. He can deal with contested coverage, but he also is probably the best receiver on this team for explosive plays. And that's what Surtain could be really good for covering.
Well, and here's why you do that too, right? TJ Ward talked a little bit about this, former Denver Broncos safety when we won the Super Bowl. You put Pat on Boutte, right? You erase him. On the backside, you bracket Stephon Diggs with Riley Moss and one of your safeties. That makes it a lot easier on Riley, right? Because he knows he has over-the-top help, so he can be harder down or, harder on some of these comebacks or whatever it may be, right? He's got the over-the-top safety help. So it kind of eliminates 2 guys, right? Pat's going to eliminate one side of the field. You're going to play man, and on the other side, you bracket, right? So you force guys like Hunter Henry, guys like, the backs, Matt Collins. You're going to force some of these lesser weapons. Obviously, they're good weapons, right? But you're going to force the lesser weapons to beat you. Now, that could work, right? The tight end and the running backs, Denver has struggled against that. Didn't quite struggle that much against Buffalo, right? Some of the tight ends and backs had some good plays, but, we made James Cook fumble and yada, yada. So, I think it just makes it a lot harder, right? If you don't have your guys on the outside and you have to rely on a tight end, a back, or a Matt Collins who, he's a good receiver, but he's not a game changer. So that's kind of why you put Pat on Boutte. You can bracket the backside.
And let me hear your thoughts. I mean, Will Campbell, I think, has been I think he's been a little bit underwhelming at tackle this year, especially in how some people were talking about him. And I think a lot of it is he had the shorter arms, right, going into his draft. And that scared a lot of people. They kept him at tackle anyways. But what are your thoughts there? I mean, Nick Bonito, like you were saying, if he can get pressure, he can really change his game around. But Will Campbell has struggled a little bit this season against good pass rushers. What are your thoughts? You think he can truly be a factor in this game, Nick Bonito against Will Campbell?
Yeah, I believe in Will long term. Coming into the draft process, we did talk a little bit about should he be a guard. Maybe he's more meant to be a right tackle, but I do believe in a long term. I think some of the injuries definitely hurt him, but the way that he's playing right now, yeah, I think Nick Bonito can definitely take advantage of a situation like that, especially at home. And if Denver can get New England into 3rd and longs, right? If you can force some incompletions on 1st and 2nd down, stop the run, and you get them into 3rd and 10 situations, Nick Bonito knows that he's just going, right? Like there's no question about whether they're running the football or what the play is, right? He has a one-way go, and that's at the quarterback on 3rd and long. And that's going to make, life on Will Campbell really hard because, it's going to be loud. They're going to have to go on silent count. So he's going on movement, right? It's not like they can force, Nick to jump with a hard count. It's going to be on movement. So he's going to time that up and he's just going to go. And that's going to be really hard for Will Campbell. That's what I was saying earlier. Like if he can get in there and force a fumble or two, one fumble, right? He cheated 2 last game against Josh Allen, but if he can force 1 fumble, I think that is that'll be huge. And on the other side, right, it's like if you have to start sliding towards Bonito or chipping Bonito, you're exposing everyone else because we have 3 other guys that had 7+ sacks this season, right? We had 4 guys with 7+ sacks. Cooper on the backside, he's probably just as good as Bonito. He just doesn't get as many sacks, but his get off and his pass rush moves, he's more of a power guy. He's a problem on the backside, and then you expose yourself on the interior. If you're going to start chipping backs out there, Denver loves to bring 5-6 guys. So, it just, if Nick Bonito can early on, and we can early on get into 3rd and longs, and Nick Bonito can force a turnover, get a sack, they're going to start having to put another guy over there. And that's where the problems start to really unravel for New England because you just can't account for as many guys as Denver has if Bonito is going to eat Will Campbell's lunch.
Yeah, I will say this. I do think that the Patriots should win this game, right? If we're being objective about the game, no personal opinions or anything involved. The Patriots should win this game on paper, and I do think they will. I think that like they have every reason to win, and picking it right now in my head logically, I think the Patriots will win. But I am rooting for the Broncos to win with Stidham because I think that's a terrible way to go out. Your season, all this hope, and then Bo Nix is discovered to have an injury at the end of the game, and that's a terrible way to go out. I am cheering on the Broncos, and let me say this really quick: a guy that could go under the radar, and Ty, you said his name here, Pat Bryant. If Cortland Sutton is getting guarded by Christian Gonzalez on every play, look for Pat Bryant to be a really key focus of the Broncos offense. Last week against the Bills, he had, I think it was 2 or 3 really quick receptions in the first drive, then was out with a concussion. But he was a key focus in that offense. And you can tell that Sean Payton sort of had that similar play calling and game style of Michael Thomas of a scheme for Pat Bryant of give him the ball quick, get quick yardage against off coverage, things like that, and he will feast. And I think Pat Bryant has the potential to have that kind of game again today.
100%. And if you look at this preseason, right, when Pat was not one of the first string guys, Stidham had a lot of success with Pat Bryant. He went to him a ton. They had a bit of a chemistry. This is a great scenario for Stidham to come in because he worked with guys like Pat Bryant all offseason, worked with guys like Marvin Mims all offseason, who's going to have to step up for Troy Franklin, and has been with Lil Jordan Humphrey, a guy who's had to step up for years now. When in his last starts, Lil Jordan Humphrey had 2 touchdowns in 2023 when Stidham started. So, he's working with a lot of guys that he is familiar with, he's comfortable with. Jaleel McLaughlin, another guy, right, has worked on the second team all season long until JK got hurt. But yeah, Pat, they went to him early. Stidham went to him early in the preseason. Pat's a big guy to watch for. And I think Mims, definitely, because he really stepped up in a huge way when Troy Franklin went down as that field stretcher guy, right? So if Cortland's going to be locked up by Gonzo, look for Pat in the intermediate and Mims on the deep balls, because without Franklin, it's a different scheme out there with the receivers they're going to have to play.
I'm going to see if I can find the lines for Pat Bryant real quick. But I think that he definitely is going to be a guy that goes has a pretty good game for the Broncos. But so Ty went with the Broncos. I picked the Patriots. But moving on,
and objectively, I'll say this too:
ahead, Ty.
the Patriots should win, right? I agree with you 100%. Objectively, the Patriots should win, but I do have to break it down as a Broncos fan. Like, how do we win this game? And I truly think that if they can win those spots, they win this football game, right? If you can force a turnover, or two, and hold on to the football at home in this weather, it's a winnable game.
Well, because I think that they're the better. I think the Broncos are the better team. If literally if they have Bo Nix in this game, I'm picking them. I think I full-heartedly believe that last week's game was the AFC Championship, the real AFC Championship, if the team was healthy going into this. Because I think the Bills would have beat the Patriots. I think the Broncos easily. I think they would have beat the Patriots as well if you have Bo Nix and can feel confident like in him. But it's just so backbreaking what happened. And obviously, Ty, like, I know it sucks, but I do still believe in the Broncos. And I think they should have, it should be a close game. I don't know what the spread is. I think it's like 3.5. I think the Broncos will.
3.5.
I want to say if they lose this game, I think it would be like by 3 points. I think they would cover the spread.
Yeah. If you think that Denver's getting blown out with the defense that they have at home with the coaching staff, you're an idiot.
I just don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Tom Jenkins and Kenny Siati believe that we're getting blown out. Idiots.
Yeah, I just don't see a shot of that happening. But anyways, moving on to the next game, we got the NFC Championship. We got the Rams taking on the Seahawks. The Rams obviously have struggled a little bit this postseason on both sides of the ball. Their defense has had moments where it collapses, and their offense has had moments where it struggles. Matthew Stafford has had a couple moments where he's missed big throws. And obviously in the Panthers game, if Puka Nacua doesn't make a defensive play on the ball, maybe the Panthers win against the Rams. So obviously the Rams have a little bit of a down couple of games on offense. Can they bounce back this week? That's going to be tough against the Seahawks defense that is playing absolutely lights out right now. They absolutely destroyed the 49ers on defense. Obviously, when Rashid Shaheed has a return kickoff touchdown on the opening play of the game, that changes the momentum and the vibe of the game completely, especially in Seattle. If it's in SoFi Stadium and you're the home team in SoFi Stadium and you have a return touchdown, that doesn't really impact the game that much. But when you're the home team in Seattle and you get a return touchdown on the opening play of the game, the whole entire game has shifted immediately. You're already swinging down or swinging up to the Seahawks with the 49ers. The Rams, similar situation. I think the Seahawks defense is better than the Rams offense, but the Rams do have the weapons it takes to beat this defense. That being said, this Seattle team, they have a really great offense right now. Clint Kubiak has this offense humming. Obviously, JSN is one of the best receivers in football this season. He has been. Sam Darnold was able to prevent giving the ball away last week. This week, it might be a little bit tough, right? I want to say that the Rams defense is better than the 49ers defense. I think they're more opportunistic 100% than the 49ers defense at this point in time. 49ers are really banged up. But the Seahawks team, if Sam Darnold can keep the ball out of harm's way, they should be able to have a successful offensive game against this Rams pass defense. I think their cornerbacks are solid. Obviously, Emmanuel Forbes has gotten picked on a little bit this season from time to time, but he's had some good games too. But JSN and Rashid Shaheed are really tough matchups for him. And you have Cooper Kupp there as the fallback guy, the third guy, the veteran. I think he's going to be a solid weapon in this game. AJ Barner has been a really unspoken hero for the Seahawks at times, especially in the red zone. He's been a guy that they throw to and rely on at different times throughout the game. Without Charbonnet, right, that's where the run game comes in. Can Kenneth Walker, he's done it before, can he be the bell cow back for them in a game like this against a tough D-line? And a solid linebacker core, right? Landman, the linebacker, he's going to be punching at the ball every single play. Can you keep your hands on the ball? Can you keep the football safe? That's going to be key for Kenneth Walker. If he can do that, he should have a touchdown in this game. He should have a really successful game. I think he should probably have, I think they're going to give it to him a good amount because that's Clint Kubiak's play style. He should have at least 60 yards in this game, realistically, at least. I don't know what his line is. He should have at least 60 yards. He'll probably score a touchdown in this one. I do think that the Seahawks win this one. I'm going to go with the Seahawks here to beat the Rams. Their defense is absolutely playing at the most elite level you can possibly play on defense. Mike McDonald has cooked up an incredible defense over there. It's a home game in Seattle. They're going to be loud. They're going to be going crazy. It's going to take a miracle if the Rams play like they did last week and the week before that to come into Seattle and beat them. So give me the Seahawks here. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, I think Seattle's defense needs to really show up because in the last matchup, right, the Rams obviously diced them up, scored a ton of points, and I don't believe in the Seattle offense in that high scoring game again like that, right? It took a miracle for them to win that game, a true miracle on that 2-point conversion. I don't think that Seattle has that in them again to play that type of a game, a real shootout, but especially not this far in the postseason, right? I think Stafford versus I would trust him more than Darnold, but I think that Seattle's defense is going to show up and really dominate. The Rams offense, like you said, the past couple weeks has not looked great by any means. Obviously, they end up winning the games, but it's in an ugly fashion. And Seattle's offense is playing so well; they're playing so well on special teams. Obviously, losing Sharps does hurt, but I think that if Sam Darnold can just hold on to the football, not turn it over, not give the Rams extra chances, this should be an easy one for them, right? Mike Macdonald is 7-0 in rematch games in his career in Seattle. He's done it once against his team already. I think he can do it again. It's going to be tough because I don't think that LA has the secondary, like we talked about all season long, to stop this offense, to stop JSN. He's a problem. Obviously, they have a great defensive front, and if they can, stop Kenneth Walker and he doesn't get 60 yards, like you said, it makes things a lot harder on that offense, and you're forcing Sam Darnold to go out and win you a football game. But I don't really think you're forcing Sam Darnold to win you a football game if your defense and your special teams plays to the level that they're capable of, right? Darnold just has to do, a little bit, right? 1 or 2 touchdowns could win you that game with a field goal. You could win a 17-14 ball game at that point, the way that the Rams offense has been playing and the way that Seattle's defense and special teams has been playing. So I'm going with Seattle here too. I think they're just the better football team right now. And I believe in Mike Macdonald, and 7-0 in rematch games. I mean, that's definitely something, right? That's not some type of a weird fluky stat. That's Mike Macdonald seeing what they can do once, and the second time around, he's like, okay, yep, these are the ways that we can pick them apart. These are the ways that we can beat them, right? And it's if you can be that good against a team the second time around, why not the third time around?
Yeah, especially in this third game, right? You saw Puka Nacua have an incredible game in the second one. Obviously had over 200 yards, went off in that one. I do think that the Seahawks defense will be able to keep him at a more reasonable yardage this game. I think they'll be able to limit him a good amount. And I want to see if Rashid Shaheed can get open deep in this one. They haven't been using him as that deep threat receiver nearly as much as I expected them to in this one. I think Kubiak might pull a trick out of his sleeve or something to get him open deep this time around. And let me say this, Sam Darnold could absolutely make me eat my words, right? I could easily see the Seahawks coming out and Sam Darnold struggling. Like if he starts struggling, it's a thing with Sam Darnold. He throws one pick, he starts to make erratic mistakes. Once he gets rattled, you see him start to unravel on the field a little bit, and that scares me when I pick this game because the Rams offense, like you said, Ty, like they're going to put up points, but you just need to put up maybe 24 points should win you this game if you're Seattle in my eyes, 24, 26 points. But if Sam Darnold gets rattled, that's going to be tough.
And we shouldn't discount Sean McVay, right? We talked so much about Mike Macdonald and the great head coach that he is. Sean McVay, obviously the second time around, figured something out with the Seattle defense and how to score at will against them, right? Yeah. So what's to say that this third time around they can't do the same thing? I think the bigger issue, I don't really – it's not that I don't have faith in their offense or Matt Stafford or McVay. It's the defense, right? And but if, like you said, if they can force one turnover – they have some guys, right? They're not absolute scrubs. Cam Curl, good safety. Forbes at times has played well, right? They have some guys back there. If they can force one, Darnold starts to snowball, and that could turn into 4 interceptions, and you win the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and I want to say it was Cam Curl. He was having a great game last week until that play where obviously Caleb Williams threw it up and past him. He played it pretty poorly as a defender. He played that ball really poorly. Obviously, I think he was just trying to play for that offensive PI.
It seemed like he was like, maybe do I have over the top help? Because there was a guy over there. Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird idea to play it low.
Yeah, especially as defensive guys.
Going to throw it to the corner.
Yeah, as a defensive back myself, and Ty, a defensive player, linebacker, line, and more in the box. DB. Yeah, it started out as safety when he was a little bit younger and smaller. Yeah, bulked up a little bit, got in the box there. But anyways. I think, defensive backs, the key is, you're playing he played the ball instead of the man in that situation. And that's a tough thing to do. Like he's chucking up. We've been debating whether this was an incredible play or just kind of like a Hail Mary. And I think it was a little bit of both. It was a mix in my eyes, but I think as soon as that ball goes in the air, you see Curl kind of move forward. And like you said, Ty, maybe he thought there was help behind him. But in that situation, like as soon as he moves forward, that's a kiss of death for him. Like he got
it's fourth down,
no man's land. Yeah,
it's fourth down. Just play the man and swat it away. Right. It almost looked like he was trying to get the interception on the play.
Yeah,
but it was such a poorly read. Like we're saying he's playing the ball, but like he was 5 yards away from the ball too. Like
I don't know,
just a terrible read on it all. Like I don't know what the hell he was doing.
And I don't know if that's him going, oh, there's no shot he makes it to throw this far. But in that situation, you can't do that. You have to play the end zone no matter what. Like it's fourth down in game.
And Caleb Williams has an incredible arm too.
Yeah.
Like he has a live arm. That guy can throw 60, 70 yards. Like I know it was off the back foot, and that definitely adds a level of, difficulty to the throw with a guy in his face. But, like, dude, he's not a scrub. Like, he was the number one pick for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason he was up there and he was traded.
For winning that goddamn game.
Yeah. Matthew Stafford, I don't get the Rams. And here's my thing in this game, too. If the Rams decide to take the ball out of his hands like they did in that game, they're 100% losing. If you decide that, hey, we have the possible MVP, Matthew Stafford here. Why give him the ball? We're just going to run it and win the ball win the game on the ground. Yeah, they ran it 6 straight times at the end of regulation and to start overtime. Those 6 straight runs easily could have cost them their season. Easily, very, very easily. It was 3rd and 10. They ran it before that last Bears drive in regulation. And then in overtime, ran it 3 straight times to start the OT period. It didn't make any sense when you could see that Matthew Stafford was having a pretty good game.
He was MVP of the league.
Yeah. And he has the greatest weapons. And he has some of the best weapons in the league. It was mind-boggling by McVay. And that's what I'm talking about in this one is if we get that McVay where he's making those sort of decisions, I'm easily picking the Seahawks to win with their defense. But if McVay, like you said, Ty, if he comes out and schemes up a masterclass of a scheme where you're getting Matthew Stafford involved with every single weapon on the field, like we've seen this season, and you're having Puka Nacua schemed open, then I think this game could easily go in the Rams' favor. But I got to pick the Seahawks based on last week's performance by both of these teams. So I'll stick with the Seahawks. Ty, you picked the Seahawks as well. So obviously, Patriots, Broncos. I went with the Patriots. Ty went with the Broncos. In that game, I looked up the line. Pat Bryant's line is only 34.5 yards. If you are out there, I'm begging you begging you to make that pick. Pick the over on Pat Bryant. He is going to get that barring injury. Obviously, last week he hit the over and then got hurt. And right before he got hurt, I said Pat Bryant legacy game ? And then he got hurt. So I cursed him.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say a word.
Knock on wood. But I am a Pat Bryant disciple. I will always back him up. I've been in his corner since pre-draft process. I was one of the first people shouting out his name before the draft and before the Broncos picked him. And now everyone knows him, but it's a little bit of a victory lap for me. But that's an exciting game, and I want to see if Stidham can pull it off because that's an exciting moment, right? You had Nick Foles take the Eagles to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl with them. This is obviously not necessarily the same situation, but very similar. It's very exciting story if Stidham comes out and beats the Patriots and gets them to the Super Bowl.
You were a big RJ Harvey guy too, and he needs to have a big game. Like if he can get involved in the pass game, but make Stidham's life easier in the run game, especially with Weinberg back. He needs to have a big game, and that's another one of your guys. So
yeah, and J.K. Dobbins, did he practice at all this week, or was he just
he practiced all the last 2 weeks? And I'm shocked.
So
he didn't.
He'll be back to the Super Bowl.
100%. 100%. Like this was they called this on Thursday, I think Friday. They said that he was not going to be able to play this week, which I mean is heartbreaking. But yeah, if we win this game, you at least get him back for the Super Bowl, which is huge, right? You get Stidham, another weapon. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think RJ Harvey, my thing with him this season at least is I think he's a very capable weapon as a running back, and especially in the pass game. He basically won them the game last week on a couple key receptions where he broke a couple tackles and got a lot of extra yardage. If you can do that again in this game, there's no reason why the Broncos can't win. But in the ground game, you're really missing that J.K. Dobbins type back to come in and be a little
Just
bit more
downhill.
between the tackles, and just run it down their throat. He can do that better than RJ Harvey. So when they're together, obviously it's a really great pairing. But I think RJ Harvey is capable where he's able to make some good runs as well. But really in the pass game, that's where he's
where Jaleel McLaughlin's been huge, because he's been able to,
Definitely.
I was thinking that he was at risk of losing his job entirely. I thought we were going to cut him, and I'm glad we kept him around, because in JK's absence, he has been, although a smaller guy, he's been more that downhill between the tackles runner that, he just squeaks by guys and gets into small holes that, he'll get 5, 6, 7 yards. So, he's huge too. If he can hold on to the football too, because he did fumble last week, we got it back. But he will be an X factor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that was really the big issue with him this past week, is just holding on to the football. If he can do that, he was going to get the ball, I guarantee you, at least 5 to 10 more times.
And that's kind of always been the story with Jaleel McLaughlin is, he'll have 60 yards in a game, and then the next game he fumbles, and it's like, well, can't trust him.
Especially with Sean Payton. When you fumble in Sean Payton's organization, he's going to find a way to punish you somehow, because that's what he's done all of his career. But anyways, Ty, making really quick, if we're going to pick the games, let's go ahead and pick the spreads here too, since it's only 2 games we're predicting. Obviously, the spread in the Patriots-Broncos game is 3.5, and the Rams-Seahawks game is 2.5. Where would you be going with the spread? Would you picking the same teams, or would you be splitting your money line and the spread?
I would take Denver plus 3.5, because I think even if we lose, it'll be a close game. Our losses this year, 2 were on last-second field goals, and then the Jacksonville game, which was obviously a bigger win for them. But so I would lean to 3.5 there. If you got 5.5 earlier in the week, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
And the other game, you said it was 2.5 for Seattle.
Yes.
I'd take that. No chance they don't win by at least a field goal, right? 2.5 is a bad line, because it's like, if you're taking the under on that, I don't know, you're really, why not just take the Rams money line at that point? So.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Broncos spread and the Seahawks spread, and I would pick the Patriots to win the game. But I think that game's it's a wild card. I wouldn't really pick with money. I'm not betting on the Broncos Patriots money line or spread. But with the Seahawks game, I would put money on the Seahawks spread to win the game, because I just think their defense is going to play a good enough game to win by 3 points.
Yeah. And I think 2.5, like you said, it's just a bad line. If it was 3.5, but you expect them to at least win by a field goal. And
that's one thing I don't understand is there's the 1.5 point spreads sometimes out there, and I do not, for the life of me, understand picking that. At that point, you are preying on a 1 point loss or win, and you just pick the money line. Just pick the money line. You get better odds one way. Especially if you're picking the team with plus 1.5, pick the money line for them. It makes no sense at all. That's just Vegas getting more money from you.
They're
honestly.
playing.
It
just
makes no sense to me.
In this winter storm, it'll be some fire.
Yeah. One more question. Who are you going to be, if you had to pick a touchdown score in each of these games, who would you pick as an anytime TD bet?
If I had to pick one in Denver, for Denver, I'd probably pick Lil Jordan Humphrey. Honestly, he the connection, like I mentioned with Stidham, he scored 2 touchdowns the last time they played together. He scored a touchdown last game and dropped one last game. I would take LJ. He's probably got really good odds too. I don't know the odds off the top of my head.
I'll find it.
In New England, I would take Hunter Henry. I think that they're going to force him to beat them. And Kincaid scored a touchdown against us last week. We've had some struggles against the tight end, so I would take Hunter Henry. In the other game, I would definitely take. I'm between Puka and Devontae. Devontae probably has better odds, and he's the red zone guy. Puka's odds are probably, I don't know, he's probably minus 1,000.
Right now, Puka's at plus 125.
Okay, wow, I would take.
And Devontae's at plus 130, so it's just a 5.
Either way, I think if this turns into a barn burner, they're both obviously scoring. But if I had to lean with one, I'd probably take Puka. And then for Seattle, I'd take Kenny. I'd take Kenneth Walker to score a touchdown. He's going to be the lead guy, so that means he's going to get the red zone carries, and I would trust him. So give me Kenny. So I'd go LJ, Hunter Henry, Kenneth Walker, Puka Nacua.
Yeah. I would go Broncos. Give me. This is tough. I don't want to pick the same guy. I think I'll go with. It's going to be passing. I don't think they're. RJ Harvey's a tough guy to get in the end zone, but in between the tackles, especially if you're in the red zone down there. Maybe receiving, he gets in. But I'd either go RJ Harvey or Pat Bryant. I gotta stick with my guys for the Broncos. The Patriots, I would go with Booty. Actually, no. If Pat is gonna be trailing him, I'm not sure yet. I'd give me Mac Hollins for the Patriots.
That was another one I liked.
Yeah, that's an obscure one, but he's kind of that red zone threat for them that I think could get in, or Hunter Henry, one of those two guys. The Rams, yeah, I'm going. It's just tough going against the Seahawks defense. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable picking
and it's tough to take their running backs.
Touchdown.
I mean,
yeah, against the Seahawks run defense, like I can't pick them. It would probably be a tight end. If I'm picking a Rams anytime TD, it'd probably be a tight end, either Higbee or Parkinson. Ferg, I think, is good, but it's weird. The one game he'll have like 3 targets, the next the next he won't have anything.
Parkinson.
The Seahawks, I want to say Rashid Shaheed. I think he's going to get in again. I think he will. I'm going to go with him. AJ Barner is also the guy I would go to in that game. But in the NFC Championship game, I can see a defensive touchdown happening too. Either way. Like I think either of those teams' defenses could score. Sam Darnold starts falling off the rails. I think that's a Rams touchdown waiting to happen.
Matt Stafford has been known to throw an interception or two here and there. So, Seattle's defense too.
Yeah.
And if you take D, isn't it D special teams?
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say that. Yeah. So it's kind of funny that I think Rashid Shaheed has single-handedly bumped up their odds for the defensive touchdown. With single-handed, because I think normally against a Matthew Stafford-led offense, right, it would probably be like plus 1,000, but it's at plus 700 for him right now. So or for the defense, which is a lot higher than I would expect normally. But anyways, Ty, do you have any closing thoughts for the episode, or you got all your thoughts out already?
Yeah, I got them all out. All week it's just been so interesting seeing, guys actually break down why Jarrett Stidham can, win this football game, and then guys just say, well, it's a backup quarterback. So we're going to see today, is Jarrett Stidham a backup quarterback, or is he a guy that can get a second chance and, is never going to be looking for a new backup quarterback next offseason? So big day for City. Big day for City, baby.
Yeah. My closing thoughts are, if you're out there and you're in this snowstorm that Ty and I are both in right now, if you're out there, get the shoveling done before the first game, so you can sit and just relax, watch that game. And then after the first game, go back out, shovel again. But just enjoy this. These are 2 good championship football games right here. I think the Broncos-Patriots game will be close. And like you said, Ty, either the Seahawks-Rams game is super close and low scoring, or it's super close and potentially high scoring. I just think that both these games should be relatively close in score, especially the NFC game, right? It's third time they're playing each other. Like, that is bound to be a relatively close game in that situation. And it's the in-division rivalry. Those games are always more fun to watch. But anyways, that'll do it for this episode of the Jenks Island Podcast. You guys know where to find us at Jenks Island on social media and wherever you get your podcasts at Jenks Island as well. We'll see you guys next week. We're going to be breaking down, I believe, the coaching circle right now, the coaching frenzy that's going on in the NFL. One of the craziest NFL off seasons for head coaching transactions, and all the head coaches going different places. And we're going to be breaking down, I believe, a top 10 mock draft. So the mock draft for the top 10 picks. We're going to be doing that next week as well. We will see you guys then. See you guys next week.